And good morning, everyone. It is 7 minutes after the hour of 8 a.m. It's Saturday. It's October 21st, 2023. Tom Eagle, your morning mayor in the house. Shane Montalban, half man, half amazing. Back in Kamloops, Canada. How you doing, man? Good morning.
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I have no complaints.
All right, good deal. Well, the Bobcats are going to take on Sacramento State at Sacramento, and that'll be at 8:30 tonight. They are 11-point favorite, 11.7 point favorite, and the over/under is 57.2. We wish them well. That'll be on our sister station, XL Country 100.7 on your FM dial. And it's Sweetest Day, Shane. You familiar with Sweetest Day?
No, but I'm sure it's a special day. But I want to go back to your last comment about the over/under. Boy, it didn't work well at all this last week with the NFL.
No.
The over/under and the winners. There's no one undefeated in the NFL.
Yep.
And every under 45 or even 25 bet was.
Yeah.
I mean, the bookies made a killing this last week.
They did okay, that's for sure. Well, anyway, Sweetest Day is a day where you're supposed to do something sweet for those you love, Shane. So
that's great. Today,
I know you got your daughters up there, so do something sweet for the daughters.
My eldest granddaughter's birthday party is today. Her birthday was on Thursday.
Well,
so
there you go.
Her birthday day.
Well, now you can get her a nice deal today. It's also National Fetch Day. Fetch something, Shane, today, I guess. It's National Apple Day. It's National Medical Assistance Day for all you medical assistants out there that don't get the recognition you deserve for the hard work you do. You have a day. It's National Pet Day for veterans, so I'm going to take care of my pets today. It's National Reptile Day. I don't have a reptile. Did you ever have a reptile as a pet, Shane?
Yes, I did. I have to admit it. One time in my life, back in my 20s, best decade of your life. Yeah, that's when you do all the goofy things.
Yeah. What did you have? What kind of animal did you have?
Oh, I just had a little lizard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that ran around and didn't do much of anything really. Just laid under the hot light.
Yeah, there you go.
On a piece of wood.
Yeah. Well, also, we need to remind you, Bozeman Magazine is doing their Bozeman's Choice. Shane and I are up for several awards over there, so go to bozemanmagazine.com and click on Bozeman's Choice on the black banner up there at the top of the screen. And we're under Media and Info, and please vote for us, and we would appreciate that extremely much. I can't imagine how much we would appreciate that from you guys out there.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
You got that. You got that right.
Yeah. Well, Shane, a lot going on this week. The Republicans are dysfunctional. or Israeli and the Hamas is still going at it. Comer is still after Joe Biden. The federal deficit went up. Congress is scrambling for AI privacy rules, boy, there's got Trump guys pleading guilty. Where does this end anyway? We got too much to talk about in a couple hours here.
Well, it ends tonight at midnight, and then it starts all over again. But
yeah,
historically, this is probably the least relative in the history of mankind over the last 100,000 years. Mm-hmm. But it's the 21st century. There's a lot of new technology and a lot of interesting innovations that have taken place, as you mentioned, AI. As to why Hamas attacked Israel. My feeling is quite clear. The Iranians have a nuke, probably several. I put half a dozen. I put the number at half a dozen. Mm-hmm. So they have a backup, and so they use Hamas and which is a recognized terrorist group. The one thing I didn't understand about your president's speech on Thursday was, number one, it was at the beginning of a football game, so no one watched it. And, there was an NFL game, Thursday Night Football. And number two, he didn't say anything about recognize Hamas and that other Lebanon terrorist organization
Hezbollah, yeah.
Hezbollah as recognized terrorist organizations by France, the United Kingdom, the EU, Turkey, the United States, Canada. So I mean, that's really unbelievable. The second thing is, I don't know why I didn't say in his speech that if you're going to attack Israel in the way that you did, what would you expect would happen? I mean, like they had to have sat down with the intelligence people of the United States because the intelligence people in the United States wouldn't have said to them, "Well, Israel's going to come back at you harder than Schiff and take you out." You'd think someone would have said it to them, but they don't care about their people. We know that now because they use them for human shields. And second of all, Iran is paying for all of it, as we are told. No reason not to believe them, but it's hard for me to understand, just me, because the Palestinians are Sunni Arabs, and Sunnis hate the Shiites of Israel, of Persia. That's why Iran's backing the Houthis in Yemen to attack Saudi Arabia, and apparently that's I get they took the saying of the CIA, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend."
Yeah,
So
say that's how it works. Yeah. Well, I looked it up, Shane. Israel's got 90 nukes. Just FYI there. So.
Yeah, they say 20 to 100. So,
Yeah.
No, but they know they have. I mean, for years, all through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they admitted they had 6. And so everyone knew they had them. But now they've refined them, and but we don't know how or where they've tested them. I believe they've tested them on their, out in their desert, Negev desert. But I just don't think the AEA or AEA, the Atomic Energy Commission, they would tell anyone, or the U.S. would tell anyone, someone's testing nukes, but because it's the triggering system that is the big problem with nuclear weapons, whether it's an implosion or an explosion nuke,
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, as we've discussed, Truman was the last to use one. No one's used one since. And I have no problem seeing that if Iran uses it next, you better look out below, which they said on submarines, but in this case it's in the caves. Someone better yell down the cave, "Look out below!"
Yeah. Let's take a phone call. 406-522-TALK is the number. 406-522-8255. Caller, you're on with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hey, good morning, you two bad boys. How's it going?
Hey, Nancy, doing fine. Happy to have you along.
I know. This is the weekend, and you're going to be sniffing out mischief. I can just tell. Hey, Shane, happy birthday to your oldest granddaughter. I hope that she has many, many more, and I'm sure that she will. I want to touch down on 3 subjects, the House Speaker and this congressional squad, and I have a message for Shane on that northern border. And I don't know, and if there's enough time and you'd like to hear it, I had my shopping trip to Billings this past Tuesday. It was very interesting. But I have to say that the Speaker of the House, I don't know, like you, I don't know what in the hell is going on with the GOP. We got a handful of people that keeps trying to fight the deep state. And I want to say that Kevin McCarthy, the former Speaker, was not deep state. And Jimmy Jordan is not deep state. He is one of the finest and the hardest working individuals in the Republican Party. He is a true conservative and a very, very good man. He has passed the most legislation in the last 3 years than the Democrats have in the 28 years. So I don't know what the problem is with Jimmy, but it's just a damn shame. And this guy they got in there now is just a temporary replacement, this Patrick McHenry. He is a total white mouse, and he's just the kind of guy, the bipartisan that Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi's and the rest of them want, just to toy with and to play around with. So I'm very, very disappointed in the Republican Party. And the squad, the congressional squad, I believe that all four of these women should be removed. They are very ungrateful Americans, and they could have started a domestic terror attack right here in the United States with their antics this past week, especially that Rashida Tlaib from Dearborn, Michigan. And since 1795, we have had 15 people removed from our Congress. We do have a law that we can remove bad congressional members, and I think this should be used against them as soon as we get the House back running again. And Shane, I'm horrified at what's going on along the Canadian and the American border. I don't think that Canada is helping the security of North America. The crossings of Muslim terrorists on the Muslim watch list, terrorist list, is up 34%, according to our Northern Border Patrol. And we both have to work together better, Canada as well as the United States, to ensure the security of that northern border and also of North America, because we're both going to pay for it in the long run. And I just have to share this. I went to Billings Tuesday on a shopping trip, and I had $200 in my wallet. So I get down to Billings there in the Heights, and I started my shopping, and I didn't have much in my grocery cart. And I had a 46-pound bag of dog food for $22. That was the best deal of all. And I got to the meat market, and there's this little old man standing there looking down at the meat counter, and he looks over at me, and I said, well, what can I afford? And he says, well, not much. He says, oh, look, there's a package of chicken feet. He said, my grandma used to make me soup out of those when I was a kid. And I said, well, how much are they? And he said, $4.98 a package. I said, oh, that's too much for chicken feet. I don't eat those anyway. So anyway, I get up to the cashier. Listen to this. And she says, she rings up, my stuff a little bit. I got 4 bags of merchandise plus this big bag of dog food. She says, $187. I said, what? She says, $187. I said, oh, my God. So, I had $13 left, or $17 left, and I wanted to go shop at a couple more places, but I couldn't. I ran out of money. And now we've got an administration. Biden wants to give a total package between Israel and Ukraine, $105 billion. Americans, we cannot do this. We cannot fund 2 wars. And I'm begging you to please, even though it doesn't do any good because we don't have a House, please notify your congressmen and your senators and write, and complain and protest. We just can't do it. We just cannot do it. So that's my time with you today. I enjoyed myself. I hope you enjoyed it too. And God bless, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Nancy. Always a pleasure to hear from you. For the benefit of people listening who may not be familiar with what the squad is, Shane, we need to let you know that there's 4 founding members, and those, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's from New York 14th District. Ilhan Omar, she's the Minnesota's 5th District. Ayanna Pressley, Massachusetts 7th District. Rashida Tlaib, Michigan's 12th District. And then we've got Jamal Bowman, New York 16th District. We got Cori Bush, Missouri's District number 1, sorry. Craig Cesar, Texas District 35, and Summer Lee, Pennsylvania 12. So that's the 8 members of the House Squad, as they're called.
It's amazing because when we look back, 3-4 years ago or even more, when it just started out as the 5 women under Pelosi. I guess it was in 20 when Trump got elected, and everybody called them the squad, but they did the same thing to the Democratic Party. She only had a 6-seat majority, Pelosi, in the House, and they pushed it left and created the whole woke situation that evolved from that. And so, that's what we've been dealing with. Now you have the Republican, I call it the platoon, because it's eight people, 8 members, they have a 7-seat majority now, and they're pushing the House and wanting it to be more conservative. Like, this whole thing about Ukraine and funding it, they don't want any more money to go to Ukraine. And your president tried to explain that we're just sending them weapons, and the money is actually going to contractors of the Defense Department to replace what we supply them. But it's quite fascinating how the left deals as harshly with the platoon of the Republicans as the right harshly dealt with the squad. So it's one of those what's mine is mine and what's yours and yours, and nanny na.
From our app chat line, AM 1450 KMMS on your smartphone, 22 million watched the president's speech. And there's a Joe Morrison running for mayor of Bozeman. And yeah, the ballots went out yesterday for the November 7th election. So if you're a mail-in ballot, they'll all be mail-in ballots, but the ballots went out yesterday, so you should be receiving yours sometime soon. Let's see. Great week. Jim Jordan told number 2 J6 traders flipped and plead guilty. Trump fined $5 for posting address as a prosecutor closing in on the ringleader. Yeah, right. Funding Ukraine is 5% of the defense budget. Sending American-made arms is a bargain, cheaper than not sending troops to Poland, where Putin is at another border, or is at their border. So
yeah, well, that's also the Baltic states, Lithuania and so forth. They've had that situation. I look. The biggest concern that I see now is that 2 weeks ago I thought it was North Korea making some kind of ground effort into South Korea to break the armistice of back in the 1947 with or 1952 with the Korean War. The interesting aspect of all of this is what does come next, because if Iran makes any effort, your president hasn't set any red lines. Wouldn't have mattered anyway.
Yeah.
Most Democratic presidents talk, but they don't do anything. But there's a new chief of staff, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, actually an Air Force general, an African American general, and they've moved 2 naval groups. I think it's the 3rd and the 4th naval groups. The Gerald Ford, that's a brand new aircraft carrier, by the way, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It just finished its 2 years at sea training. It's a 2.4 trillion Ford class. It's a new class. They have 3 more ordered. You have 12 now, brand new. Nimitz, the Nimitz Eisenhower, Dwight D. Eisenhower is on its way. It's going through the Gibraltar area right now. Mm-hmm. But the remarkable thing is what happened in the Red Sea. You've got a destroyer that's in the Red Sea, and it took out some Houthi rockets that were aimed at Israel. Mm-hmm. This isn't. So I mean, the ground action started, and it includes the U.S. So Iran's surrogates in Iraq attacked the U.S. Military set up there, and so we'll see how this goes. I was relieved to see they did let 2 hostages go. I think there's going to be a trigger point for Hamas to decide, they're serious about destroying this. They may come to understand that and release more hostages. But the interesting security information, I think, that everybody, including me, was they released these 2 American hostages in the south of Gaza. So now that South Gaza tunnel system is almost as large as Gaza City. It's not quite as deep, but it fell to the Egyptians in 2002, and they flooded them out. They flooded all the tunnels in South Gaza. So there's two things there that I think are important. Will Israel, who's provided all the water and infrastructure for water for Gaza City, electricity and gas, will they go in there with Hamas, and because they know where the fresh water works are underground in Gaza City, and all they have to do is open one of that, or open those to the tunnels in under Gaza City and flood them out. This would be a short situation in just a couple of days to fill up the tunnels and where they come out at the top.
Well, I think you're talking about a lot of tunnels and a lot of water. I think you better.
Water moves pretty fast, Thomas.
Well, it does, but you got to have a lot of it, and they have hundreds of miles of tunnel. They have hundreds of miles of tunnel.
Yeah, I understand that, but the Israelis have a lot of waterworks. They've perfected and created all the technology, modern technology, 21st century technology, to convert seawater to fresh water. So, and they do have quite an aquifer underneath Israel because of the Red Sea and so forth.
From our text line, 478-8298, we can thank Trump for tearing up the Iran deal without a replacement, removing all leverage, and now they have a nuke. What a stable genius. Well, where's the stable genius that got back into the agreement? I don't think there is one.
And it expired this last week, so now Iran...
So now it's over.
Now it's open. They can go out and buy arms. They can go out and buy rockets or whatever they want. This is now becoming a very precarious situation, not just for us, but them. I mean, there's no reason to believe they haven't planned some kind of terrorist act.
All right.
I think if the U.S. we got to go.
Watch your time.
You're supposed to go. You're supposed to.
There's a caller on the line, Shane. If you'll talk with them, I will return right after the news. Welcome back, everyone. 27 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Saturday. It's October 21st. It's 2023. We need to remind you, BozemanMagazine.com. Tom and Shane up for several awards over there in their Reader's Choice poll. And we wish you would go over and vote for us. Go to BozemanMagazine.com. Click on Bozeman's Choice in the black banner at the top of the page. We are under Media and Info. And we would appreciate your vote very much. We have a caller patiently waiting on the line. Shane has determined is worthy of airtime, so we'll pop that person up. How you doing? What's going on?
Listen, I've been listening to you guys this morning as I drive, and the thought occurred to me that history does repeat itself. The Nazis rose up and did these type of criminal acts to 6 million Jews. It's not incidental that the Jewish people are suffering again. But, once in a while you have to take a lesson from your enemies, and if you want to get Hamas out of the tunnels under Gaza, you simply gas them. Sorry. It sounds kind of cruel, doesn't it? Yeah, how does stacking up a bunch of little children and burning them to death sound? Does that sound kind in any way?
Yeah,
okay. Well, we're dealing with monsters, and when you deal with monsters, I mean proven monsters, murderers, sick people that will do damage to innocent people, you have to eradicate them. I'm sorry. I've never been a proponent of any kind of genocide or singling out of a certain class or of people. That to me is sick, but that's exactly what Hamas will do if they are left intact anywhere on the earth.
Yeah, recently I wrote an article that maybe the time has come to rethink the Geneva Convention when you have one side not adhering to any kind of rules of engagement and expecting the other side to abide by, humanitarian rules and everything. And before the Geneva Convention, we dropped 2 bombs on Japan. It bombed Berlin, and, it was all bets are off. You go out to win. And,
right.
In this case, the Hamas is using the fact that Israel will play by the rules as a defense against them.
Right, and I think the minute one enemy breaks the rules of the Geneva Convention, they're out the window.
Yeah, or you set a time limit or something like that, where you go all in and you go all out for 60 days or something like that.
Yeah, do you think that Iran will abide by the Geneva Conventions once they have a stockpile of
nukes,
tactical nuclear? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they will.
They'll check the rules off on the Geneva Convention before they bomb the heck out of Israel.
Hand over heart, and hand on the Quran, and right arm raised. Exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And one other thing, if I could, fellas, I won't dominate the time here, but we have a mayoral election coming up here in Bozeman. I'm very concerned about the people who are running for mayor, and one of them has stated that that our economic system needs to be thrown out. That's Mr. John Meyer, and he seems to be a front runner. And then another one, the young guy, got nothing against him, except these are purely socialist people.
Yeah, they all are. I mean, there's nobody to vote for. There's no one to vote for.
Yeah, that's right. And, no one that will bring any kind of sanity. And I've heard local business people here, I'm one of them, who say, well, nobody that's in business wants to run because they'll ruin their business. So I got news for all of us. These people are out to ruin our business.
Yeah. Well, a lot of business owners live outside of Bozeman and can't run. That's another issue that I've heard from time to time.
But you know what? They all have employees, and a lot of them live in Bozeman. They're,
True.
I'm not buying any of those excuses.
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, I think if you're called to, if you see a wrong and want to right it, I don't think losing a couple customers is going to stop you from doing it, or shouldn't.
Boy, it sure shouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hey. I'll listen in.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Don't forget to vote in the BozemanMagazine.com. Running for mayor in Bozeman, Sidney Andrus couldn't be more left. John Mayer couldn't be more left. I'm not too familiar with Joseph Morrison. For City Commissioner, Roger Blank is running, Jennifer Magic is running, and for Municipal Court Judge, Carolina Tierney is running. And over in Belgrade, let's see, we've got for mayor, we've got Brad Cooper and Russ Nelson. Russ Nelson being a former mayor over there as well. For a municipal court judge, they got Kathleen Brandis and Christopher Gregory. So I don't have any information on either of those people. I've talked to Russ Nelson quite often. Seems to be a logically thinking person. So I don't know. So let's see from our app chat line, Shane, AM 1450 KMMS in Bozeman. Right on John says, so what you're saying, Tom, is that 21 million viewers fell asleep before their regular bedtime while watching the Biden speech. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Right on John is on the case. Let's see. Last week you mentioned there were 5 or 6 liberal serial texters. If callers can only call a show once per week, these cowardly texters should have the same limits of 1 text per show. I've listened to your show for 20 plus years, but lately when the crazy texts come in rapid fire, I just walk away from the radio. Well, we got to put on both sides. And one of the reasons that I show the liberals is it's more a demonstration of misinformation or uninformation or uninformed people who are texting us. So
which is strange because, well, the reality is it's strange. Mm-hmm. What's amazing is they know how to text, and knowing how to text means they have social media, which means the social media they're watching isn't informing them. Yeah. And that in itself is quite remarkable. I was amazed to find out and see this week that Google announced that, since the 6th of October, they've taken down 750,000, people on Google and their videos. And that's pretty remarkable because it's amazing that the videos that everyone did see got through somewhere on social media because they wanted so much. I think a lot of it was on Facebook, who apparently took over 300,000 down. I think most of the videos that they initially put up are still up. Unlike your Congresswoman's comments, about the Israelis, and it's amazing that you actually have someone in your Congress who's elected and wants the destruction of the Jewish people. And it's it's like I have said before. When you go back, to the election in 1932, right? 29 KKK congressmen were elected, and 16 KK senators were elected from the South to your House and Senate. So, I mean, I guess that, here we are again.
That's 100
years later now. Now they're supporters of these Nazis. It's quite amazing.
From our text line, 478-8298, I agree with the last caller. Truly sadly necessary. As the woke, heartless, soulless left goes, they only hate the Jewish people is because of the relationship between Bibi and Trump. That's as far as their minds go. Stuck on stupid and dope sick. It's Jen, damn it.
Yeah.
All right, Jen.
Well, pretty hard for them to make an argument when you look at what Trump had happened to accomplish. I look at this situation with the two American hostages being related, having to do with Qatar. Qatar is a major, ally of the U.S., as you know. The Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Trump was one under an accord that he tried to bring peace between them and Israel and have them all recognize Israel. The PLO, the Palestinians, recognize Israel's right to exist, but other countries don't. But the point I want to make is I think the Prince of the Emirates, or of Qatar, went to the hotel that the leader of Hamas lives in, because that's where he's living, in a nice big suite at the top of a hotel. I think he went up there and he said, "You enjoy being our guest? You better let some hostages go, or if not, all of them, because you're our guest here." So in ways, people see you as a hostage. So I really don't want you here. So there's always that, because they're saying that Qatar somehow is involved in all this. And,
Qatar has Hamas there, and there are Hamas units in Qatar.
I know, and the leader of Hamas is in Qatar. So I was gonna say, that's their connection. That's pretty close.
Let's see. If Hamas was destroyed today, the same group will be back in a couple of years under a different name. Remember ISIS? Yeah, Al Qaeda, ISIS. It's whack-a-mole, Shane. As soon as you get one, you get the other one. So.
Well, I think the way they raise and educate your children is generation. It goes from generation to generation. So all the teenagers and young men young teenage men and children that are being taught this, they'll just take the place of their parents and be even more angry because their parents are dead. So it's just one of those things.
Forget the Geneva Convention, forget the Constitution. Well, hasn't the Biden administration kind of kicked the Constitution to the curb?
To a large degree. I'd like to cover real quick in this first or second block, since we have a few minutes left, that Al-Ahil Arab Hospital that the media, particularly the U.S., told the world was hit by an Israeli rocket, and Hamas said 500 people were killed. There's no question there was a loss of life, several dozen. They had video, drone video, and chatter that they recorded, having Hamas admitting it was another sect of anti-Jewish people, another sect that fired a rocket and it blew up. Three things you need to know. First of all, 33% of the rockets they fire out of Gaza Strip don't make it even out of their territory. They land in their own territory and do damage because they're made out of old pipes in shops in Gaza. The other thing is that this hospital has an incredible history. It was been in operation since 1882 by the Church Mission Society of England, the Church of England. In 1954 to 1982, the medical mission of the Southern Baptist Convention took over, which I'll comment to real quick. And then since 1980, the hospital has been run by the Episcopal Church in Jerusalem. And International Charities has Embraced the Middle East. Now, Embrace the Middle East is interesting. It's like the Southern Baptist Convention. Now, if you're a believer in Christ, if you're a Christian and the New Testament, then you believe that the Lord will come back. He will rise again. There's a number of things that people in this religion, and I'm one of them, believe several things have to occur for that to happen. One of the most important things that has to occur is in the city of Jerusalem itself. It's called the Dome of the Rock. A lot of you that are Christians and know about this, read about this. I'm not informing you, but our other listeners, I am. It's an Islamic mosque, the Al-Aqsa, and it was originally built in 691 BC, and it replaced the second Jewish temple, which was built to replace the destroyed Solomon's temple. So, and was rebuilt, of course, the second temple by Herod the Great. That was destroyed by the Romans when the Israels revolted against them in 70 BC. And so this is holy ground of both these religions. Now, the original dome of this Islamic temple collapsed in 1015 and was built in 1022. This is the center of Eastern Palestine in Israel, in the part of Jerusalem they still hold, which includes this temple. And I go back to the Southern Baptist. Now, this Christian group has for years sent medicine and medical people and food and everything to people in Jerusalem and Palestine, because they believe the collapse or the destruction of this temple is one of the final things that has to happen under the New Testament for Christ to come back. And there, if you've ever seen movies or anything about the Southern Baptists, they're a pretty amazing sect of the Christian religion. So I know I did a lot of context there, but this becomes a very difficult thing because people won't want to talk about, and the media won't tell you about the several hundred Palestinians that have died, Islamic young men that have died in the last several years, rioting and challenging the Israeli government. Plus, we all know that for over a year, the entire country of Israel has been split over this restructuring of their legal system in their Supreme Court by none other than Netanyahu. So now this all comes back together, and sides have been taken, and the sword is drawn. So it's a matter of when they take the tip of the sword and thrust it into Gaza City to see how this may or may not end up.
Well, okay. Good job.
I know it was long, but I wanted to. I think it had to be said so people know.
No, good job in there. So, all right, let's see. Well, the other thing that what do we really know about Hamas? Started in 1988, according to the Council of Foreign Relations, anyway, and material and functional support from Iran. Obviously, we pretty well know that, according to the U.S. government and the Council on Foreign Relations, and Iran broadly complicit in these attacks, whether they admit to it or not, Shane. I think we pretty well know that.
That's right.
So it's pretty well pretty well
Well, they don't
documented.
deny it. There's all kinds of interviews of Iranians, and now they've made all kinds of threats.
Mm-hmm.
In the last week, they've made several threats. So it's a pretty sad situation.
Well, the top commander in Gaza bragged that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard general killed by the U.S. in Baghdad in 2020, that was Soleimani, had contacted the leadership of al-Qism brigades or whatever, Hamas military wing, as well as with the leadership of the military wing of the Islamic Jihad, and offered them the Guard's full support. So once Soleimani was killed by a drone outside Baghdad airport, that was back in 2020, Shane, January 3rd. Both Hamas and Islamic Jihad recently held military drills in the Gaza Strip, as did Hezbollah in southern Lebanon.
And this one thing that's different between Clinton and Trump. Clinton had the same opportunity of taking out you-know-who, back in '98. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't pull the trigger. Yeah. But when they came to Trump about this guy in Baghdad, getting off an airplane and getting into it, take him out now, pull the trigger, get on the phone, do it now, put up the video, I want to watch it. And that's the difference. These people as a religious sect, and they're a sect to Islam.
Yeah.
This is all they know. Muhammad was their prophet. They don't believe that he is the prophet to come back, but they would like that to be the case. Mm-hmm. They follow his guidelines, and a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't last week, I said to people, you should read the Quran. It's not a bad book of poetry. There's some incredible poetry in there about the desert, but there's some guidelines that are very specific about all things. It's like the Old Testament and the Hasidic Jews. Hasidic Jews can't touch women, and it's the opposite, of course, with Islam. You can touch any woman. So it's one of these dangerous things. It says in there, if you attack your enemy, take hostages. They become valuable later.
Yeah.
And if you attack, make sure you're mean, cruel, and vengeful, so that when they see what you're willing to do, you strike fear in your enemy. I don't think he read The Art of War because it wasn't around then, but it's quite interesting. If you interpret The Art of War, there's similar sayings in there. So this is something man's been doing for 10,000 years. We shouldn't be surprised, nor should these people in Gaza be surprised with what's happened.
Yeah. Well, according to the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center, Hamas primarily operates in Gaza, but also has a presence in the West Bank, where the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority control different parts of the Palestinian territory. The group formed in 1987 is Palestinian. That's Hamas I'm talking about. A branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, an Islamic political movement that was founded in Egypt in 1928. And in 2007, Hamas ousted the Palestinian Authority from power in Gaza. And I'm thinking, Shane, this might be a Saddam Hussein type election. If you don't vote for Hamas, your house and your children and everything else is going to be in serious trouble. So,
I like that. I like the Mexican cartels, silver or lead. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Which do you want? Yeah. Hezbollah is also around-backed with a political party and a military wing that's been designated a foreign terrorist by the U.S., which refers to the group as Hezbollah. Hezbollah also opposes Israel, and the two sides have fought against each other before. But Hezbollah is based in South Lebanon, which borders Israel. It operates as a militia alongside Lebanon's armed forces, according to the CIA World Factbook. And Hamas and Hezbollah follow different divisions of Islam. Hamas is predominantly Sunni, and the religion single biggest group that a majority of several countries follow, including Egypt. Hezbollah is a Shiite group, and the religion's second largest division that Iran's population overwhelmingly follows. So that maybe that clears up the two, that they're
Well,
friendly
everybody's
enemies, I
talking.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're going to have a couple of minutes, but everyone's talking about the northern border. The one that's important, of course, is with Syria, not really with Lebanon, because the president of Lebanon came out and said we don't want to have a war, with Israel. I mean, we had one 20 years ago, and they destroyed Beirut. We haven't even rebuilt half the city yet. So everything that's everything that's new, we don't want to see disappear. Now there have been erratic firings of rockets and stuff from Lebanon, but the terrorist group up there, they're claiming they've got 150,000 rockets. So clearly there's a level of madness to all of this. But remember, this is very generational. I mean, when you look at what happened with the issue in Eastern Europe and in Yugoslavia after the breakup, Serbia, the Christians and Jews were fighting there. One of the transitional things in their guidelines was you couldn't kill someone on their property, but if they walked out the front gate, you could shoot them.
Okay,
so that's how bad it is. Yeah.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this segment here. We still got 2 full hours to go. Don't forget, MSU's taking on Sacramento State tonight at 8:30. They're in Sacramento, California, so check that out on our sister station, 100.7 on your FM dial, XL Country. And don't forget to vote for Tom and Shane. Bozeman Magazine, Bozeman's Choice, Reader's Choice. And go to bozemanmagazine.com. Click on the black banner, Bozeman's Choice, and Tom and Shane are under Media and Info. And Tom and Shane will return right after this. 7 minutes after the hour of 9 a.m. Mountain Time. It's Saturday. It's October 21st, 2023. Isn't the 21st supposed to be the beginning of something, Shane, like spring or summer or autumn or fall or I don't know. Seems like today ought to be some kind of a thing or something. From our text line, 478-8298, Shane is correct. Wow.
Wow.
There you go. Prophecies are being met. Some are aware. Most have their heads in the sand. I'm aware and scared but necessary. I watched the video Operation Blackout, and it didn't surprise me. I would love to know every single reason why this mother and daughter were released. Thank God they were, but what and why those two? I really want to drill down and find out. So maybe Shane can work on that between now and next week, find out why these two were released, Shane. Was it make some kind of deal behind the scenes somewhere, or what happened there?
Well, I explained in the second block what my feeling is. The leader of, Hamas is in Qatar, living in a beautiful hotel, and the Prince of Qatar went up and said to him, do something. Stop this. Anyway, one more thing that I think really has to be mentioned, because no one in the press has, and I'll try and be quiet and only answer questions you ask me. For those that don't know, there's principally 6 religions of the world today. The Buddhist religion isn't really a religion, it's a philosophy, and there's about 600 million plus, most of whom live in India. The Hindus, who are, they're back from even before the time, they have ancient history, and they're pagans, and there's 400 million, and most of them live in India as well. You have the Christians, about 1.2 million, the Muslims, about 1.5, and the Sikhs of Pakistan, there's about 45 million. Then you have the Jews. Now, in 1935, there were about 15 million Jews, and keep in mind this religion started in 98 BC. So when you take into account the size of these, which I've given you the first, the Muslims, there's 1.5 billion. It's a very small religion, but it has had incredible impact on the development and the success of mankind into the 21st century with technology and innovation and imagination and invention. But the interesting thing about this is this. They lost 6 million during World War II. That would bring the population from 25 million to 14 million. And today there's around 18 million worldwide. Well, over 9 million of them live between the corridor of Montreal and New York. That's incredible. I mean, half the Jewish population of the world lives in Canada and the United States. And, in Israel, there's about 6 to 8 million Jews in Israel. So it's not I guess you'd say politically a well-represented group or minority, but it's very vulnerable of being wiped out, and that's why this is so. Those that understand this, including secular Democrats, they believe in the greatness of man. They don't believe in any God. Is so important. So that's why this is causing so many people to be so upset, and particularly those uneducated at your college campuses. What do you think about what's going on in your country with all these demonstrations in support of the Palestinians?
Well, again, if you thought if you were on the fence as to whether colleges are liberal or conservative, I think that's been put to rest. The jury's back on that thing, and the verdict's in.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's obvious that they're uneducated and have no clue. None of them have looked up the history. I think the other night you saw somebody say, instead of calling it Palestine, they call it Palestine or something.
Yeah.
They couldn't even pronounce it. So I don't know. It's a bad situation. I'm thankful I have not heard of any reports of any Jewish or Palestinian demonstrations here at our college, MSU. If there has been, by all means, 522 talk. Let us know. But it certainly hasn't been reported any news that I've seen here locally that there's, they've. We're notorious for marching for Black Lives Matter, gay rights, transgenders, you name it. If there's some front page story, MSU takes to the main street with their signs and walk up and down and go to the library and have big testimonial speeches and everything. But I haven't seen anything regarding either support of Israel or support of the Palestinians or support of Hamas or anything like that from MSU. So that's where we find ourselves. So
yeah, well, I think that the most extreme example of anti-Semitism, anti-Jew belief in your country came from Harvard over the last 2 weeks. A group of legal students at Harvard, as you know, like 200 or 300, signed a letter opposing Israel, and supporting Hamas. Now, here's a college. It's one of the oldest in your country. They have a $27 billion endowment fund. Harvard does not have to charge for people to go to its school. They have, because of their endowment fund, it's so large, it's not a big school area-wise. So they have all the money they need for maintenance or rebuilding or building new schools or whatever. Second of all, they have enough money to pay all the people that teach there, professors and so forth, the administration. But here they have this money, and they actually had the audacity this last week to ask the people that contribute to the endowment fund to send more money to help the Palestinian students on their campus deal with this situation.
Yeah.
They're all having issues, and they need counseling. What, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, what's basically happened is a lot of Jewish businessmen have demanded the names of these people that signed this letter because they've said outright, we don't want our law firms or companies hiring them. So anyone graduating from Harvard, class of 23, 24, don't send any suggestions to us because we don't have anything to do with it. And they got raked more for doing that than Harvard did for asking for more money to help these people with the concerns they have. And these are the kinds of extreme things that are happening that you look at as an individual. Even you don't have a dog in the race, right? 'Cause you're not Jewish or or Muslim, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm Catholic or I'm Christian.
Yeah.
But I look at this and I go, wow, that's isn't that racism? I mean, on both sides, like, aren't
Yeah.
they? Where's the woke movement? Why aren't these people being,
Yeah.
taken out or whatever? Or
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the other thing
I
too,
can't
Shane.
talk. It's so overwhelming.
Yeah. I wrote another article this past week on the news should show the news as it is.
That's right.
Back in the day when John Dillinger was gunned down in Chicago, they flashed his body everywhere. I mean, there's pictures of him laying there with his tongue hanging out on the slab. Bonnie and Clyde are all shot up. They're laying there, surrounded by police officers and everything. And even the Holocaust, we saw Jewish folks in ditches to be mass burials. I mean, we saw all that stuff. The news didn't sugarcoat it or, whatever. And I'm wondering right now, if you're going to have decapitated kids and people burned alive or whatever, let's if you want to give a disclaimer, look away, you leave the room or whatever. But I think it's time that, I've been in war. I've seen war up close and personal. It's not something you want to look at, Shane. It just isn't.
No. And we know the story. We know the story of Eisenhower.
Yeah.
When he went to one of these camps after they took over Germany, and he went in, and he saw the unbelievable things that went on, the ovens, starvation, and he ordered the men to gather every person in the city that was less than a mile away, a German city. It was over 20,000 people, including children. And he forced them to walk to this camp to realize how close it was to their city, and to walk all the way through the camp and back home. And then as they were leaving, they were given a letter from him saying, how could you have allowed this to happen and not known?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the way things were done back then. Now, of course, we sugarcoat everything that, oh, my God, we don't want to offend anybody. We don't want people rioting in the streets, Well, we saw what happened with George Floyd, who was not killed by that policeman, by the way. The autopsy proved that. Yeah, but this guy's doing 20 years regardless. And, the bombing of the hospital. I don't know if that was an Israeli rocket or a Hamas rocket. I don't know that for sure.
Tom, they have the video, and
it doesn't matter, Shane. It doesn't matter. I don't know personally that it was done.
First of all, it didn't hit the hospital.
It hit the parking lot,
and it did some damage. I've looked it up on some sites.
I know
you can find it, and it did do some damage to the hospital. But the hospital's not been shut down. And it's still operating, and it's still Christian operated. And, by the way, where's the media on that? Why would Israel attack the only Christian hospital in Gaza City?
Yeah. Well, that's not the point. The point is...
It's the point.
No, it isn't. No.
They wouldn't do it.
Well, whether they would or they wouldn't, I don't know. And
I do.
Well, you've been convinced by the news media that it was a Hamas rocket that went awry. That's what you've been convinced of.
No, I've been convinced by the information that Israel provided, the drone footage they have, and the audio communication between the different sects of Hamas and them talking about which one fired the rocket.
Sure.
You can't deny that.
Sure, and there's no artificial intelligence anywhere else. So.
What? What's artificial intelligence?
I mean, you can create anything today, Shane. I'm just saying the news doesn't report things accurately. I'm not saying this. We know they reported inaccurately because they said Israel bombed the hospital. All the news media sent that out.
500 people died. Now it's less than.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't matter how many died. It's terrible, but it's like 120. It's like.
It doesn't matter. The point is the fact that the news media released that Israel bombed this hospital was the catalyst that started the demonstrations at the universities in mass and around the world in mass, and it was wrong.
Well, do you remember the Tunisian back in 2010 that lit himself on fire and resulted in the collapse of all the Arab countries along the Mediterranean and in North Africa? I mean, it's the same thing. We went from Tunisia to Algeria to Libya to Egypt and right through the Middle East. So here we are, less than 20 years later and less than 100 years later for this type of thing to occur. And it just tells you, I mean, 20 years ago, there was lots of social media. But when you think of the media that was around compared to today 100 years ago when this occurred, it's pretty scary to realize how global wars can find themselves happening.
Yeah, in my article, I posted a couple pictures of the Chicago Tribune talking about December 7th, Pearl Harbor, and referring to the Japanese as Japs. And I don't think you could do that today, so, but, I'm disappointed that the news censors what we see.
Yes, it's very sad. Otto Preminger, the great director, created a movie back in the 60s called Exodus. I happened to decide, because I own it, to watch it this last week. And I started crying because when you see in that movie, Paul Newman, he's great, beautiful blue eyes. That guy was just amazing. And The Great Escape on his, motorcycle when,
Steve McQueen.
Prisoner of the Power. Steve McQueen, yeah. And anyway, Paul Newman was in the movie, and it was just what Israel went through to come about and be recognized by the world, first of all by the United States. It's to come from 1948, May 19th to today is, it's staggering, Thomas. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I want to spend a little time on the gun laws in Israel because we only 140,000 of the 9 million people in Israel have guns or have a gun permit, I should say.
Well, gun permit. Anyone that's been in the military has a gun.
No, they don't.
Outside of the people,
I can't find anywhere active duty. Yes. Past duty, no. They don't have a gun. I can't find anywhere where any past duty person who served in because it's a requirement in Israel that you do military service, but
that's right.
You don't keep your gun because only 140,000. 4,000 people applied for a permit in 2023. They also, you can only purchase one handgun, and they up the ammunition from 50 rounds to 100 rounds. And so the eligibility is really pretty strict. You've got to be a resident of where you live for 3 years. You've got to get a doctor's permit or doctor's evaluation of you. You've got to have, a self-defense test. You've got to have a legitimate reason for having a gun. Just that you're afraid for yourself or your family isn't good enough. So, they don't have a Second Amendment in Israel. So, the Israel announced that there's only 1.5% of the civilian population has a license to own a gun in Israel. So, it's they're extremely strict there. You have to take 4.5 hours of training. You also have to have a basic knowledge of Hebrew and provide a health declaration from a doctor. And you got to pass an interview with the police, pay a licensing fee, buy the gun, and be trained at a shooting range. So that's where we are. And if you've been in the military before, it's a little easier to get a gun because you've already been trained and all the stuff. But you have to have a legitimate reason and still pass all the things for getting a gun. So that's where Israel is at the moment. But they are trying to relax those because of recent events. They want more people to have access to self-defense because they didn't have any self-defense when they were dragged out of their homes and shot and killed in the streets.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like I say, I've seen war up close and personal. It's not pretty. And the Vietnamese did exactly the same thing. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, no rules of engagement there. You know, even though they were members of the Geneva Convention, they didn't care. And the Viet Cong certainly didn't care. They were the Hamas of the Vietnam. We had the Vietnam regulars that were in uniform like we were. And, of course, we had Viet Cong, which were civilian fighters, guerrilla fighters. All right. Glad we got that out of the way, huh?
Sure.
Well, the Biden administration, Shane, they want $3.5 billion for grid resilience measures. They want to prop up the grid with $3.5 billion. What do you think? Too little, too late?
Well, we know it's a joke.
Yeah.
It's just cover.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just political cover. What he knows is there's total support for Israel because, you know, the Jewish electorate in your country has been Democrat since FDR, basically.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, they know that people are upset about the border. So if he keeps throwing money at it, he's saying, it's shut down. He can keep saying it's shut down. But the problem that he has is that these two issues on either side of the one in the middle, which is Ukraine, is over. I mean, Americans are tired of this war in Ukraine and being told that it's in our best interest and they're degrading the Russians. And we saw this, excuse me for coughing, we saw this back in the Clinton administration, back in the Carter administration in Afghanistan, when the Russians were in Afghanistan. And they fought there for over 10 years, and then they put their legs between their tail between their legs, and they left. And they bordered the country. Of course, they left because the U.S. was supporting what turns out to be, 9/11, and so it bounces back and forth. The issue you're dealing with is a religious one, and no one wants to admit it. All right, and the bottom line is Christians want to draw people to them. Muslims want everyone to be one or die. You have one of two choices. Three. You can pay a fee not to be a Muslim, which you're going to go bankrupt and die, or you die, or you become a Muslim. That's it. Those are your three choices as far as the Muslim religion is concerned. And no other religion has that caustic position. But now, they're now 8.5 billion people on the planet, 1.7 billion people. So they will continue to grow. We've talked about it over the years, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Coming up at 10 o'clock. Last week I promised we would hear from Rabbi Bruk, and finally got the recording to work, so we're going to hear that at 10 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. So talking about the the Israeli and Hamas situation in Israel. And coming up, of course, 8:30 tonight, the Castig on Sacramento State. That'll be on our sister station, XL Country, 100.7 on your FM dial. Shane and I'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. 27 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Saturday. It's October 21st, 2023. I want to remind you the Bobcats will be at Sacramento State at 8:30 tonight. That'll be on our sister station, 100.7 on your FM dial, XL Country. And sorry I'm out of breath. Jumped down the hall to visit the facility, and I'm old. Can't run up and down the hallways anymore. So I apologize. Well, the Biden administration, $3.5 billion for grid resilience measures, and the administration has projected the funds will result in more than 35 gigawatts of new renewable energy being brought online. It also projects that 75% of the projects will involve partnerships. Are you ready, Shane? Partnerships with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. This is kind of a union gift, Shane, because it's an election year and we need union votes.
It's incredible. Trillions spent over 30 years now.
Yeah.
And renewables account for 21.3% of your grid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, windmills 10.3% and dams 6%. I'm really disappointed by the reality of the windmills off the coast, east coast of the United States, because sentient beings called whales communicate like for thousands of miles underwater, and any sentient being has thought and reason. So if that's impeded because of the fact that sound is what is a big part of their lives, they probably would go mad from the horrific noise being generated by these windmills, and the fact that they're sounding, as it's referred to in science, is bouncing off these huge pieces of engineering that man has created.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these beaching of all these whales on the East Coast they're going mad, and
Mm-hmm.
there's nowhere for them to go. They can't get away from it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they go mad because they're a sentient being, and they just go up on shore to get away from the noise.
Yeah.
That's my feeling from everything I've read.
Mm-hmm.
Now I use that out of context because we've talked about this photovoltaic, and this is your government, right? This is the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the EIA. As you go, I'm not making this up. They'll tell you that it's 3.3%. So the trillions of dollars you spent on solar panels and so forth have done absolutely nothing. Now, the second thing most important is an electric pulse, electromagnetic pulse. That takes out everything. It takes out electric cars. It takes out your phone. It takes out the towers. It takes out power. And this is why I would love to see Montana go off the grid and create its own, power grid within the state to protect you and harden it. You can harden it from a pulse, but my feeling is the Chinese ran these balloons as a test, and because of the reaction, I think they're amazed. So they're probably thinking, well, let's put some eggs on them.
Yeah, put something on them.
Yeah, but one nuke at 50,000 feet over central of the United States, and your grid goes down, and it would take literally 20 years. The U.S. would go back to being in the 1800s. So yeah, these things have to be talked about, and of course, this is another political effort on the part of the present administration to answer concerns by their own party members in the Senate.
Yeah,
I mean, some of the most caustic comments coming about the danger of your grid is from the Senate.
I just came across an interesting article in The Hill, Shane. It says, playtime is over. We have to put the toys away and have the adults in the room re-exert their authority. It's one thing when the issues of a day are identity politics, green energy, organized looting, cashless bail, Trump's legal exposure, political corruption, and who's really in charge of the border, when having a president and vice president in power who even countless Democrats no longer have faith in. It's quite another when the world is teetering on the edge of massive violent conflict or outright nuclear war, and that leadership looks demonstrably lost and feeble. Yeah.
Well, I don't entirely fault the left for their effort in the Green New Deal, because what they're trying to create is what the Industrial Revolution created. As you know, 92% of people in the United States in 1899 were in the agricultural field. And that changed by 1920. Over 35% were in the Industrial Revolution. So the computer was the last big, huge jump that took place from Reagan to Clinton. The 45 million new jobs it created, the trillions in value and wealth that it created were hysterical. I mean, just amazing. So this technology comes along and the Democrats jump on it thinking this is going to be the 21st technology that's going to create, I'm so sorry, Thomas, vast numbers of jobs and create great wealth. Well, it started out that way, but it's not working. Now, what is working, and I know that we've had this discussion for over a year, but it's happening faster than even I thought. There are over now a dozen companies creating and have built electric flying vehicles of all types for delivery, cars, taxis, and from South Korea to Japan, Germany, Britain, France, Italy, the United States, not Canada yet, but there's so many stories, Tom, I can't even send them all to you. But if you just go look at it, folks, electric flying vehicles, EFVs, this is going to be the technology of the future. It's going to create over 100 million jobs by now in 2050. It'll be, now they're estimating, over $2 trillion industry, and it's going to change the world, and the electric car is gone. Not the combustion engine, because that's not going to happen. But Amazon is now delivering packages less than 5 pounds by drone. Imagine this: a drone flies over your house. They've given you a little, it looks like a little trampoline, and the drone comes down at 10 feet. It drops on top of this outside your front door to go out and pick it up. But weight will always be an issue. But they're phenomenal. You should go online and look at these pieces of equipment. This drone industry is just we've already seen. It was created basically for war, but now it's going to change the 21st century.
I'm sorry, I just woke up. I was asleep there for a while.
You do sleep when I talk, I notice.
Yeah,
I can see you.
Well, I don't see a future for electric flying vehicles. I see a future for possibly hybrid flying vehicles. Hybrid electric and gasoline-powered vehicles. But electric, you got to plug them in. You got to park them somewhere. As I've said many times, I don't want to go to the Winco parking lot and watch a whole bunch of cars lifting off and figuring out which way to go. And, are they just going to fly over the streets? As the streets are, they're going to be restricted to that, and they can't fly over anyone's home, because what if you lose control? You crash into someone's house or the side of a building or something. I don't know. A lot of restrictions will be placed on these things if they ever do get off the ground.
Sounds like a commentator from 1910 talking about the car and how it can replace horses and buggies because of the problems and or the 1930s with airplanes, and how are they going to fly in the air and not crash into each other?
That's right. Yeah.
These are all going to be automated. They'll all be run by AI. You'll climb into them, and it's already you can program where to take you, and even in the case for take one to work. So
yeah,
there's a lot of rooftops out there that aren't being used for anything and be converted into landing areas.
Yeah.
These don't have large, gigantic propellers.
Sorry, Marge, I'm out of electricity. I might have to land on the Baxter.
That's right. They'll have a charger up there. Buddy.
I'm sure they will. Yeah, more than one probably.
Yeah.
All right.
Course.
Well, anyway, I don't know. I'm more interested in more.
And you will see it.
I won't see it. I won't see it. In my
know
lifetime.
You will, because I'm going to pay to take you on a flight on one.
Yeah, right. There we go. Fly down here and get me.
I will. I might just do that right on top of the Baxter.
Well, make sure you know where the charging stations are along the way.
I will. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, I'm more interested in what's happening today rather than what's going to happen 100 years from now. But
why the oil industry is involved in all this? Exxon, and all the other oil industry corporations in the world plan 30 to 35 years ahead. Okay, they don't plan for next year.
And they want hybrid vehicles.
Well, they're planning on what to do with regards to oil and to be relevant, and be around and be in existence. I mean, that's their job.
Yeah.
The whales didn't have a vote and said, "Oh, let oil replace us."
Yeah.
They got lucky. Man found oil and saved the whales, and the coal miners didn't vote and say, "Oh, gee, let's have natural gas and oil take over the electrical power grid." It started out at 68 to 70% of the power grid in 1825 was coal, and there were dams and a couple other sources of some windmills that generated rural electricity, but everything has a transgression, and we're in the middle of one, a very big one.
Yeah. Let's see. Talking about fake news, what network news channel paid almost $1 billion to keep their lies from being exposed in court? Tom, you must have stock in oil and gas companies because you don't like electricity. I love electricity. Trust me, man. I love electricity. If you've got roads for cars to drive on, that's fine. If they're electric cars, that's fine too. I really don't care. But when you start flying around, that gets a little more serious.
All right. That's not what's important. Look, you and I've talked about this for 20 years. Look, no industry without ball bearings, no ball bearings without lubrication. So
right.
The first need of oil is lubrication for all industry we have around the world. Number two,
right. Yeah.
Everything you walk through, use everything. It's like now over 95%.
Yeah.
Over 95% of everything you see, use, or own is created from petrochemicals. Oh, oil.
Right.
So with the world population 8.5 billion, and how petrochemicals and plastics have protected the world and provided more opportunity for growth of population and feeding and food manufacturing and on and on and on. We need oil and gas for other purposes than to run trains, planes, or automobiles. We know that. Oh, here's a phone call.
I know.
Let's go. Let's go.
We've
Let's
got
go.
a phone call. 406-522-TALK is the number. 406-522-8255. Caller, you are on with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Well, you're not on 1040 or 40.
I'm sorry?
You're not on 1340.
We're not on. Yeah. No, it's. She's talking about it in Livingston, Shane.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. I didn't know we weren't on there. So.
Well, they've been off the air for, I don't know, 2 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't been over to Livingston, so I haven't had the opportunity to check it out. So, well, the best I can do right now is text the engineer. Maybe they'll get back to me before the end of the show, and I can let you know what's up.
So you guys aren't on an FM?
95.1 FM.
Oh, 95.1?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, you can try that. Maybe you can pick us up over there. Yeah, we're on 1450, 1340, and 95.1.
Wow. What are the other two?
1340 in Livingston, 1450 in Bozeman, and 95.1 wherever it goes, I guess. So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, get on them.
Yeah, try 95.1. Maybe you can get us there.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks for the call. All right, yeah. Well, I don't know what's going on over in Livingston. I know for a while the station was up for sale over there. I'm not sure what's going on with that, whether it's sold or whether it's that fell through or what. But anyway, I don't know. Let's see. Talking about we did that already. Let's see. Tom, you must have stock in oil and gas. Well, I must have because I want the lubricants. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the petrochemicals.
I think you guys need to get educated on the future of electric vehicles. It's not your grandfather's car. Yeah, well.
And it's not the future.
Yeah, it is. As far as Israeli and guns, if they're assigned a weapon, they usually keep it while they're in service. So once their time is up, the weapon goes back to the army. No, when soldiers are given equipment, they sign for it, and when they are discharged, they have to return every single item. And I believe we said that earlier. That they don't get a gun assigned to them for life. So.
Well, and I think it's important to say too that one of the reasons Israelis accept that the rules about guns and carrying a gun is twofold. They don't want to be misconstrued as a terrorist or on the street or whatever. But more importantly, they had been convinced by their government, like you have, that the government's protecting you. Yeah. Americans believe that. They don't believe there's any terrorists coming across the border. They don't believe there's any terrorists. Now, they believe that Americans on, the 6th of January wanted to overthrow your government.
Yeah.
But, they have full belief that your government, your elected representatives, the military is protecting them. Yeah. So, 9/11 brought that out. And, and everything has changed since then as we know it. So.
And they also don't believe that they don't believe babies were decapitated. They don't believe people were burned alive. Right. They don't believe people dragged out of their homes, raped on the streets, killed on the streets. They don't believe that the Hamas bombed the hospital. So there you go. So that's what I say. It's the news is not your friend any longer.
Well, that's quite apparent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly with the emails you get.
That's for sure. And the texts.
Yeah.
Text line 406-478-8298. First thing that Israel did when war broke out was to ease the standards for gun ownership. Well, they didn't ease them very much. You still got to speak Hebrew and do all the other things. They're going to make it maybe easier for more people to apply. One of the things they were going to do is you could apply over the phone rather than going in person. You used to have to go in person. Now you can apply by phone.
Well, one of the most difficult airlines to fly on is El Al, the Israeli airline. And one of the most difficult places to get into is Taiwan and Israel. Now, when you go to Israel, and typically any airport getting there that you may disembark to get on another plane, you will meet some Israeli government official who will question you while you're there. And when you arrive in Israel, and this happens to a lot of people, some have an Israeli past because they're obviously Israeli, but any foreigners that you may be questioned up for 2 hours before that, even though you're just going there to see Bethlehem or the Temple Mount if you're Islamic.
Yeah,
it's not an easy country to get into.
Nope, that's for sure. It definitely is not. So let's see if we got another caller on the phone. 406-522-TALK is the number. 406-522-8255. Caller, you're on with Tom and Shane. What's going on?
Is that supposed to be me?
That is you.
How you guys doing? I haven't talked to you for a little while.
Living our dream. Living our dream.
Yeah, and that's about half the lie true.
What's going on?
What's this deal out here with all this damn weather that we're having? It was supposed to be snow?
Yeah.
When?
Pretty nice, huh?
Well, I can't get it on the damn Weather Channel.
56 degrees outside, according to my my monitor here.
Oh, I say it's sunny and 70. I was just curious because I didn't hear anything about the weather. I don't know. Maybe my radio's mucked up, but all right. It's good to hear you guys on the air. Shane, thanks for still hanging around. putting
Thank
up
you.
Joel Thomas. I know it can be a real pain, you know.
Amen.
Yeah, the guy's never going to change.
Nah.
But that's what it is.
No. If it
All right,
if it works,
It's
don't
hard
fix it.
Our record says, it's hard to be right. So
Yeah.
how can we change if we're right?
If it works, don't fix it.
That's right, buddy.
All right.
Now, listen, for your question about the weather, solar flares, go Google solar flares.
There you go.
We're in a minimum of solar flares.
Yeah.
All right, a maximum extreme of solar flares. The sun's producing more solar flares now. And there goes Tom with his arm. Be quiet, Shane. So
I'm
just
telling you to watch your time. I'm telling you to watch your time.
I got to say goodbye soon.
Yeah, you do.
Another hour with someone else. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you do. Coming up, we got the recordings of Chaim Bruk, Rabbi Chaim Bruk here in town to talk about the Israeli situation and how it affects Bozeman and maybe some interesting tidbits about Israel and all of that. So that'll be coming up the 10 o'clock hour. We'll have two conversations with Rabbi Chaim Bruk. So,
all right.
if someone cashes $1 million in 10-year Treasury notes on time, does that $1 million add on to the national debt? Also, can you recommend a simple read on our monetary system and stuff like that? Shane, you keep up with that. What's the simple read on our monetary system?
All interest on all U.S. debt is paid separately by the Treasury Department, so it's not added to your debt.
Well, there you go. Do you have a simple a website or somewhere they can go to read about
you can go to both the Federal Reserve, and you can go to your Department of Treasury. The largest contributor to the Department of Treasury is the interest that the Federal Reserve generates, and they use that cash to pay the interest on your debt. So it doesn't create more debt.
So I'm guessing it's treasury.gov and federalreserve.gov?
You got it, buddy.
Okay. Well, try those. If not, let us know next week. Yeah. Let's see. What if you're flying and get a DUI, Shane?
Well, you're not flying. It's it's automated. There's no pilot.
Oh, I want to be able to. What if I'm going into a flock of birds? I want to be able to turn.
Well, the AI will determine.
Oh,
that.
well, okay, good.
Well, yeah, they have radar. You have heard of radar, right?
I have, but you're going at you're not above the flight path of.
Tom, they developed that technology in the 1980s for commercial aircraft because there had been several accidents where planes
Say goodbye.
did. Goodbye. Have a nice day. Be happy, be safe. Live in the moment. Live to work. I love you, best friend forever, dear Thomas. And we appreciate all the phone calls and hope that if you have the opportunity to do something you love, live to work, because it will make you a much happier person getting up every day to do something you want to do.
There you
go.
go.
Come home with a smile on your face. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you for listening.
All right. He's the best sidekick in radio ever. Half man, half amazing. Shane Montalban in Kamloops, Canada. Thanks, Shane, so much. Great to have you here every week. I can't tell you how much I appreciate having you here. So,
well, I'll call back if you're flying solo and have.
Okay. This doesn't work. I don't know what I'm going to do. So we'll be right back with Chaim Bruk right after the news. We're speaking of the Chaim Bruk, the rabbi here locally in Bozeman.
This was under better circumstances.
Me too. You and I usually meet on holidays, Jewish holidays, and celebrate and have a good time. And now, last Saturday, a heinous event happened in Israel, an attack by the terrorist group Hamas. For the benefit of listeners who may not be familiar with the area of Israel, I mean, they know where Israel is or whatever. But, yeah, that's true. But you got Gaza, you got the West Bank, you got the Golan Heights, you've got the Israel itself. Can you give us a little history of We know Israel was awarded by the UN in 48.
We're going to go way back. We're going to go way earlier.
Well,
well, I mean, first of all, you mentioned that I normally come in here. It's for holidays. Passover, we're celebrating the Exodus from Egypt. Purim, we're celebrating our beating Haman in the Persian Empire. Hanukkah beating the Syrian Greeks. So you're right. Normally we come here to celebrate historical victories of good over evil. Sadly, today I'm talking here about modern-day Nazism, modern-day cruelty, barbarism that's unheard of. So I do think context of the landscape in the Middle East is vital. So obviously what I'm sharing with you is from the Jewish tradition. God gives Abraham the land of Israel, or as it was called back then, the land of Canaan, 4,000 years ago. And from that day on, there's always been a presence in the land of Israel of descendants of Abraham, meaning Jewish people. So his son Jacob lives, his son Isaac lives in Israel, in the south of Israel, actually, not too far from what today we call Gaza. His grandson Jacob goes to his uncle's house in Syria, but comes back with a big family and settles in the land of Israel in Nablus. And that goes on throughout history. We have eventually the King David and Solomon. Solomon builds this beautiful temple on the Temple Mount. And eventually that's destroyed 410 years later by the Babylonians. They exile the majority of the Jews out of Israel. Then we have a second temple. Ezra and Nehemiah build that one, destroyed by the Romans. And it goes back and forth like that. The Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the British Mandate of Palestine, the Crusades came into Israel. You name it, it's all gone through that part of the world. The one thing that's always been is that the Jewish people have always been there. And even when we've been expelled and exiled, it's always been our ancient homeland. I find it interesting that Muslims pray to Mecca, right? That's their central place of holiness in Saudi Arabia. Christians consider Nazareth or Bethlehem as holy places. The Jews are the only people that for the last 3,000 years have been praying towards Jerusalem. Today, the Arabs claim that the Temple Mount is there, but historically it's simply BS. There was 2 Jewish temples, one built by Solomon, one built by Ezra and Nehemiah. There was never a mosque on the Temple Mount until recently because Islam didn't even exist when these 2 temples existed. They say the story about the Israeli ambassador who came to the UN. He said, it's really unfair that when Moses was crossing the Jordan River to go to Israel, he took off his shoes and left it at the side of the water, and an Arab came, a Palestinian came and stole the shoes. So the Arab member of the UN started screaming, "That's a lie, it's a lie. There were no Palestinians back then." And the Israeli said, "Well, on that note, I'll begin my speech." Yeah. Right? And so I think we bought in as America to an entire, and it's sad to say, because I'm an American, I'm a proud American, we brought into a narrative about the Middle East and about the geopolitics of the Middle East as if somehow there's 2 sides to this coin, right? Israel's colonials. You look at their colonists. Look at the map of the Middle East, going from Egypt to Nigeria to Morocco to Saudi Arabia to Iran to Afghanistan, Pakistan. Talk about colonialism. How did the Muslims get 80 countries in the Middle East and Israel has one sliver piece of land the size of Rhode Island? And even if you're going to claim, which I think is not you, but I'm saying if the world claims that somehow in 1948 the UN had no choice. Jews were coming to their homeland. Their only part in the process was to sort of split the land between the Palestinians and the Arabs. Between the Palestinians and the Jews, and they weren't even called Palestinians back then. It's a new made-up name that Yasser Arafat did a very good job of selling. They were called Arabs, the Arabs and the Jews. Even if so, that does not mean that in the name of whatever ideology you have, you come in and slit the throats of babies and burn them alive. So the fact that anyone in America would defend that is just, that in itself is cruel.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to touch with you on, I guess it was in 2005 that Gaza became a Palestinian colony, to use a better word, I guess, or another word.
2005.
Yeah. And they elected a Hamas government, I understand, in 2007.
Correct.
So that's kind of where this whole thing started.
Well, that's not where it started.
Well, I mean, it's the genesis of
where we're at today.
where we ended up today.
Correct,
yeah.
and we have to call a spade a spade. Israeli Prime Minister Arik Sharon, the famous warrior general, made a colossal mistake. There's a lot of debate in Israel as to how he made the mistake and why he made the mistake, or whether it was deliberate because he was trying to appease certain people. They shouldn't get him in trouble for other things he was up to. But the bottom line is, he decided with his government to withdraw the Jews from the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip used to be split. There were Arabs in the north, Jews in the south of the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
So the Jews were closer to the border with Egypt. The Arabs were close. The Palestinians were in the north. He says, we're going to take all the Jews out. We're going to give them the whole Gaza so they can have their own state. And they should stop telling us that we're occupiers, right? So we gave them everything. 12,000 Jews were taken out of their beautiful homes on the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah.
Taken out, schlepped out. And till today, those people don't have homes. They're living in caravans. They were promised by their government that they're going to have homes to replace. They never got homes.
Yeah.
The governments tend to do that. They promise you things they don't fulfill. And so we gave it to them. And everyone that knew a little bit about the mentality of the Muslim world, and especially the Islamic jihadist world, knew that it just means they're going to have more territory to launch their wars against Israel. And ever since, from 2005, we've had these constant barrages of rockets. If it wasn't for Iron Dome.
Yeah, I think the last one was 2021. They had some in 2018. There were several.
That doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And every time the humanitarian help comes from the EU or the US or the Gulf states, and they get all this money, instead of using it for humanitarian aid, they're using it to build 7,000 rockets landed in Israel this week. Yeah. Someone's got to pay for that, right? And tunnels are built with the concrete that's officially being used to build homes.
Yeah.
And so, I as a Jew, we hate war. We despise war.
Yeah.
And there's
I've been in war, and I've seen it up close and personal.
I'm sure, and I have to say that it's people like you and all the other tens of thousands of veterans here in Montana who actually are the ones that understand the reality in Israel the best. Yeah. Because you've looked evil in the eye. Yeah. And now we've all, thanks to social media, there's any perk of having social media that today we don't have to wait for CNN or Fox to give us the news. And the images of the burned bodies and the slit and the beheaded babies are everywhere. Yeah. You can't deny them anymore. And to tell me that there's any type of moral equivalency between a person and a movement that believes in beheading children and an army that does everything in their ability to never hit a civilian. Yeah. Right? The Israeli army protects its civilians. That's why they're there. Hamas uses civilians as their protection. Yeah. To make a moral equivalency with that is either you're a liar or you're super ignorant, which is not an excuse today. Don't be ignorant. You can't be ignorant because there's lives on the line. Yeah. And I have been incredibly overwhelmed with gratitude to the point that the first 48 hours after the holiday ended and my phone was turned back on, every time someone called the office at our synagogue, all I did when I heard them talking, and they were all calling to lend support and tell us that they're praying for them, I just burst out crying. I couldn't even respond to them because I was so emotional when you see 1,200 of you. But the Jewish people are a family. We always have been. We got our issues, like every family. Yeah. Family, you don't always have to get along. But at the end of the day, we're family. 1,200, middle of the most joy, the holiday on the Sabbath.
You had a holiday on Saturday,
called Simchat Torah, the joy of the Torah, the joy of the 5 books of Moses. It's a holiday that's entire existence is for joy. And to wake up on that holiday and find out that...
Do you think it was deliberately picked for that holiday?
It's hard to know. Yeah. It's hard to know. I think the Sabbath was definitely picked as a deliberate day. Yeah. They know that Israel, there's so many people that are, committed to observing the Sabbath that they're just a little off guard. Yeah. Whether they knew it was, based on what they actually did and how strategic they were, I wouldn't be surprised. But I could venture to say what I want. I don't know. But
now they've issued today is the day of the jihad to the Middle Eastern countries, I guess,
they issued it everywhere.
Yeah, well, that's what. Well, everywhere. Yeah, but mostly with Middle Eastern folks are going to be the.
The FBI reached out to me twice already this week because the threat was officially leveled to everyone around the world. But here in Bozeman, our synagogue does have security. We always have. Yeah. And we're working with the police department and the sheriff's office, and we have no choice. Yeah. Because I could say, well, I wanted to, this is Montana, and people are nice. It's true. People are incredible in Montana. But all you need is one crazy jihadist who's been, inspired by...
Well, we do have a university here that has people from all over the world here. So, we would hope that doesn't spill off into, something negative for our city.
We haven't seen any of that.
We have not.
In almost 17 years in Bozeman, I've never seen it. I think President Cruzado and her team have done an incredible job of keeping MSU a safe place. Even a few weeks ago, unrelated to this Hamas attack, there was one floor in one of the dormitories that had some swastikas drawn on one of the floors, including on a floor where there's a Jewish student. It wasn't targeting the student, it was just
there.
But the university was on top of it. They dealt with it. They found the perpetrators. They held them accountable. Thank God. I mean, I don't think they need to go to prison. It's not a crime. It's just a stupid moral act. But the point is, I think the school takes it seriously. I mean, I have an open line to the president of the university whenever I need. And I think the leadership in Montana has done an incredible job of ensuring that the Jews of the state, they did this both when there was the white supremacist attack in Whitefish, the online torture that was done there. And back then it was different representatives. But, I mean, by the time the holiday ended, my phone had messages from the governor, both senators, both congressmen. And at the event we had at the Solidarity event, the mayor was there, the deputy mayor Cunningham was there, the ex-mayor Krause was there. I mean, the people showed up. And I'm not really into that. But this time around, it meant the world to me because it's a scary thought to think that someone wants to slit your throat.
Well, anything that affects the people of Bozeman, we certainly want to rally around those people. Particularly when it's such a heinous event as happened here. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Rabbi Chaim Bruk here in Bozeman.
Babovich of Montana, your favorite word.
There you go. Yeah, say a couple Hail Marys for me. Huh? There you go. Well. The other things that have been going on, the countries around, you got Egypt, you got Jordan, you got Syria is there as well, Lebanon. We've heard things coming out of Lebanon, attacks coming out of Lebanon as well, some rockets and things coming out of that area.
Lebanon is one of the biggest tragedies.
Yeah, that's
country that was a big chunk of the population was Druze. It was like split in three: Druze, Christian, and Muslim, and they had great leadership, and it was considered the Paris of the Middle East. Now they joke; they say Paris looks like the Beirut of Europe. Yeah, they switched their roles. But the point is that it was a beautiful country. Then Nasrallah came in with Hezbollah, and turned that country into a total poverty-stricken, no tourism. And so, the claim is that Nasrallah has 100,000 rockets aimed at Israel. But he would be making a very, very big mistake. Part of me would like him to shoot some rockets now, because Israel's in the mood of just eradicating, and so go shoot some rockets, see where that gets you right now. But America warned. President Biden made a warning. It was unequivocal. Any other nation any other group that decides to join this terror against Israel, America's going to intervene. Now, I'm not big on America intervening and sending troops, and I don't know that they would send troops, but you don't have to send troops these days. Drones do great jobs these days if you need.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't necessarily need boots on the ground.
I don't like bloodshed. It's against every fiber of my being. I love a world where everyone gets along. I mean, I've been to the mosque here in Bozeman over the years, and it's not like I needed to pray there. I just wanted to meet the guys. I believe in. Living side by side and respecting people, human dignity, recognizing that every human being is created in the image of God. But when you're dealing with modern day Nazism, there can't be compromise, because when you compromise with a Nazi, that's basically you saying that certain lives don't matter. And we can't afford that. The Jews went through a Holocaust once, we're not going to do it again. And even if the UN condemns us, we'll tell them go to hell and we'll move on. Yeah.
Well, the other thing, too, is I heard that Egypt closed their border, so no one from Gaza would be able to go into Egypt either permanently or temporarily for safety.
The way Israel's news is reporting it is that America, Secretary of State Blinken and others were working really hard trying to get a humanitarian corridor to allow people from Gaza. In order there should be.
Yeah, they talked about a safe zone.
Even let them go to Saudi Arabia. But here's the truth that no one wants to talk about. For the last 50 years, nobody wants to take in the Arabs. Go look. I think people would be fascinated to know that in Jordan and Lebanon, Palestinians are living in encampments. They don't have their own cities. They're living in refugee camps. They don't have any of the amenities that anyone else has. It's almost like the blacks were treated in South Africa. But somehow the Jews are at fault when we give them big swaths of land, and you won't even let them in.
Yeah.
Right? And so
they were treated much like the blacks were in the South.
They are.
Well,
and when Syria decided, not Syria, when Jordan decided they don't want the Palestinians, they slaughtered 30,000 of them in the 1970s. Has anyone said a word about it? The point is, the Arabs are using Gaza as almost like a fundraising tool. Yeah. We need those guys to be the poor Palestinians so that we could say that, we can use it as a negotiating pawn. These are not pawns. These are people. The people living in Gaza, most of them are not Hamas terrorists. The sad thing is they're Hamas terrorist sympathizers.
Yeah.
And if you're going to sympathize with terrorists and empathize with terrorists, you're going to have to pay a price. I'm glad that Israel gave them the option to leave.
Yeah.
The fact that Egypt won't let them in,
yeah.
and Israel's being blamed. There's only one exit coming into Israel. There's one Arab country that borders with them. They have an open border. I think it's called the Rafah border, the Rafah crossing. Go.
Yeah.
You have the whole Sinai Desert. You can fill the whole Gaza in the Sinai Desert in 5 seconds, but no, they won't let them in.
Yeah.
And so, again, depending on where you get your news, people in America either do or don't. Oh, yeah, go Palestine. What do you know about Palestine? I saw this great meme. It was Queers for Palestine, right?
Yeah.
Do they know that if you're gay in Gaza, they throw you off a roof?
Yeah.
Do you even realize
they don't realize that?
It's like it's a thing, chicken for Chick-fil-A, chickens for Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
What are you, Queers for Palestine? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But that's what we're dealing with ignorance to a level of cluelessness that is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
The Allied forces had to, unfortunately, when they were bombing Germany, I'm sure civilians died.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Let the Nazis continue the Holocaust because the civilians? It makes no sense.
Well, that's what I said. I recently wrote an article about maybe revising the Geneva Convention when the other side has no rules of engagement at all, and you've got to abide by humanitarian conduct. And when you're dealing with, we went through the same thing in Vietnam with the Viet Cong. Very ruthless people. I mean, they would kill the leaders in front of the village to send a message. Yeah, I mean, they would just cut people up in public.
I think a lot about the selective, the choice that people make and when they're going to utilize their human rights emotional outburst.
Yeah.
Yemen has 20 million people starving to death because of the Hutsi and the Tutsis, whatever they're called, fighting over there, and the world says nothing.
Yeah.
Israel's defending its citizens from people slaughtering their throats and chopping off their heads. And suddenly the whole world's, what happened to the people of Yemen? People of Syria? People of Libya?
Where's the UN?
Where's everybody?
Yeah, where's... All right, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Chaim Bruk, rabbi here in Bozeman, and we're going to continue the conversation on the other side of the news. So we're happy to have Chaim Bruk with us, too. When we come back, we want to talk a little bit about the effect in Bozeman of these events that took place last Saturday and all week long, and we'll be back with that right after the news. Welcome back, everyone. A little conversation with Chaim Bruk there. We're going to continue that conversation in the next half hour. Right now, though, I need to remind you that Sacramento State's going to take on MSU tonight at 8:30 p.m. That'll be on our sister station, XL Country, 100.7 on your FM dial. And also, I've got to let you know that Bozeman Magazine is doing their Reader's Choice vote again. And Tom and Shane are up for several awards under Media and Info. All you need to do is head over to BozemanMagazine.com, click on Bozeman Choice in the black banner up at the top of the page, and head down to Info, Media and Info. And Tom and Shane are in for several awards: best DJs, best program, luscious voice, which I've won before, which is obvious. I don't know why anybody else even enters that when I'm in there. So, but we're going to. We hope that you'll go over there and vote. All of our competition is on 5 days a week. We're only on 1 day a week, so we really need a groundswell of grassroots to go over there and help us out. Go to BozemanMagazine.com, click on Bozeman's Choice in the black banner at the top of the page, and you'll be directed on where to go. We're under Media and Info. there's several things you can vote for over there. Best restaurants, best activity, best this, best that. They've got a whole bunch of different categories. But Tom and Shane will be under media and info, and we hope that you will check that out because we really need your support. I sound like I'm PBS. We'll send you 10 CDs of Tom and Shane if you vote for us. So I don't know what we're going to do there. So, but coming up, we're going to have our second talk with Rabbi Bruk. Very informative guy. He's very energetic, as you could tell from the previous segment. But we want to talk a little bit more about local Bozeman things as we get close to that. So we'll be resuming the conversation with him in just a few minutes. We got news coming up at the bottom of the hour. So we hope you'll stay tuned for the second half of our conversation with Rabbi Bruk. And I think you'll find it very informative. So we're taking a short break. We'll be right back with the second half of our interview with Chaim Bruk right after this. Welcome back. We're talking with Chaim Bruk, the rabbi here in Bozeman, and we want to talk a little bit about, obviously, this is several thousand miles away, but the ramifications of last Saturday reign here as well. The people of Bozeman, non-Jews, Jews, Christians, you name it, even atheists, I think, are looking at this and saying, "Hey, this is not a good thing." It's not a good thing.
And obviously the local level, we have about throughout the state that I know of, there's probably about 30 Israelis in Montana, maybe a little more. Obviously, to them, it shakes them to the core. My father and his wife live in Jerusalem. My nephew, who's 19 years old, turning 20 on Monday, I believe, is serving in the IDF. He's a kid from Florida. He's not an Israeli. He just went to serve
the Israeli Defense Force.
Yeah. My uncle and aunt live in Sderot, which is right by the border of Gaza, and my first cousin had a rocket land in her living room. Thank God she wasn't home. And I get calls all day from Jews around the state. There isn't a Jew that I know in Montana doesn't have a friend, a cousin, an aunt, an uncle, somebody in the land of Israel, which is, I think, Hamas really miscalculated, and terrorists tend to do that. Chances are if Hitler wouldn't try to conquer the whole world, he would have had Germany no problem. Problem is he went a little too far. When you go a little too far, the world wakes up. And I think in addition to the non-Jewish world, the religious world, humanitarian world, like you said, even atheists. I have atheists coming to do prayers. What do you mean with prayer? I don't believe in God, but I'm going to pray that the Jewish people somehow find what they need during this time. The amount of calls I've gotten and emails and it's been incredible, but I think it's more than that. They Israel, especially the country of Israel, has had a major rift the last 9 to 10 months about democracy. It's a big war about they don't have a constitution in Israel, so they've been killing each other over whether Netanyahu is trying to turn it into a dictatorship, which I think he's trying to get a little bit more power. I doubt I'd call that a dictatorship, but others, are. And Israel's been demonstrating in the streets, and guess what? The last week, they've united the Jewish people left and right, religious and secular, Ethiopian and Caucasian. There's no divisions anymore. We are united people, and it's worldwide. And when the Jewish people are united, there's nothing that can mess with us. So they really hit us at our core in the most brutal way. And they will pay for that, not just in the war zone, but in the brightness that will be brought into humanity as a result of the barbarism. I think people are genuinely looking to do goodness right now because they saw such evil, and they can't believe. I mean, the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said today when he was in Israel that it's worse than he's seen from ISIS. The images that he saw coming out of what they did on the border of Gaza is worse than ISIS. What does that tell you?
Well, some people think this is ISIS. It's Hamas,
ISIS.
Yeah, you can call.
They come with. I agree with you.
You call them whatever you want. I
mean, my wife had a friend on Instagram who posted this incredible. I mean, it's a meme, and it's signed by someone named "You Sound Dumb." It's good. It says as follows: the Holocaust was sad, but we must also hold space for the Germans who were suffering after World War I. After all, the Jews were to blame for the inflation they were experiencing, and we can't lose sight of the bigger picture. of what led the Germans to exterminate the Jews.
Yeah.
They were resisting the selfish, greedy communists who had no right to be living in Europe. And it's sad what happened. We can't ignore why. Anyway, let's pray for peace.
Right.
And that's a lot of the BS we hear here in America. Yeah, I mean, why are there terrorists, right? They always tell us there's terrorists because of occupation. How could you call it occupation? We gave you the whole damn Gaza Strip in 2005. So 18 years ago, we gave you the entire Gaza Strip. You could have turned it into the Taj Mahal. You could have turned it into the new Beirut that it used to be. You had infrastructure. You had trucks coming in and out. We employ, by the way, half of Gaza is employed in Israel. They cross the border. They cross into Israel every day. We offered you a state. What did you do? You put rockets in hospitals, universities. You put rockets in kindergartens. And then when the Jewish people come and shoot back to defend ourselves, you say, oh my gosh, you're killing children. Who put the rockets with the children? Right? You had pipes for water pipes so you could have irrigation. You took the pipes out of the ground and turned them into materials for rockets. Is that our fault too? When you have a charter, and the Hamas charter states clearly its goal is the eradication of the entire state of Israel. That's where it comes from the river to the sea, right? Palestine will be free. Where's the river? The Jordan River. Where's the sea? The Mediterranean Sea. Basically, you want to eradicate the entire Jewish nation out of Israel. And that's why a great leader once said, I don't remember who it was, an Israeli leader who said, if we put down our arms, there won't be any Jews left. If they put down their arms, there'll be peace. And that's just a fact. I've never met anyone go on a subway and see a Jewish guy walk on and go, I better duck. Right? It's just not who we are. We got our problems. But we're not the ones that are looking to spill blood. We know way too well the cost of bloodshed. We don't want to see that in anyone.
Well, we're also seeing a lot of demonstrations all over universities. And I guess if there was any proof of liberalism on university campuses, it's well documented now. Well, to me anyway.
But I think what's going on campus is also impressive, and that is, yes,
there are people siding with both sides.
Woke, Antifa, BLM groups are associating themselves with the Palestinians, and I have to be honest. I mean, it's very hard to hear some of the things they're saying on the campuses. I mean, they're basically in one campus, I think it was UW in Seattle, they were saying like they're happy about the rapes. I mean, this is insanity.
Well, some of them were just denying that all that was disproven or debunked or whatever. But
I think what's happening is that the more anti-Israel, especially under these circumstances, groups become. There's many liberal Jews, including college kids, who have relatives in Israel. You have to remember the villages that were destroyed, that were just ransacked, and where the murders took place are mostly left-wing parts of the country, secular left-wing Jews that were murdered. So it means their family, wherever they are chances are they're left-wing or left-leaning, anti-Netanyahu, not super religious. But when you kill and slit the throat of my best friend, and you want me to stand on a college campus and say that I'm okay with what's coming out of your mouth, and I think it's a time for some inner searching of our soul, of our country. Right? I tell people for a long time, before you send your kid to a college campus, maybe send them to a tech school where they'll learn how to be an engineer or a plumber, or, a vocational school, get a job without being indoctrinated with horrible things, not just about Jews, but here in Bozeman, I got a frantic call on Wednesday from a parent who has a kid at the local high school, where the teacher was saying it's terrible what happened to the Jews, but you have to understand. And I have to understand? I have to understand why Jews are being beheaded? What planet are we on?
What's the weather there?
But we are a resilient people, and not just in physical might, but in spiritual power. We are a spiritual powerhouse. What happened this week is millions of Jews gathered in synagogues and Jewish centers and public squares around the world to pray and to give charity and to study our ancient 5 books of Moses, the Torah. You can't mess with that level of light, with that level of devotion to a spiritual, more refined form of living. And so, we are mourning this week. In Judaism, Shiva is the mourning process. We mourn for a week after someone. But when we're done mourning and all the families get to bury their dead, because remember, most of the dead are not buried yet because Israel's still trying to find bodies, and it's a mass casualty disaster. And we still, of course, have those that are being held captive, including some 30 babies, toddlers that are being held in Gaza. But when we get that all figured out and we have all our mourning done, we're going to move forward. I'm going to move forward with joy, with alacrity, with excitement to serve our Creator and humanity, and nothing can come in the way of that. A little candle dispels so much darkness. Right? You don't need a big flashlight. If you need to get into the room and it's dark, you just have even a little flashlight. Your phone flashlight gets you through what you need. And we're going to continue to provide that light for the world. And no amount of threats and jihadist threats and Friday threats. We're going to threaten you on Friday, on Tuesday. Yes, we'll do what we have to do to have security. But at the end of the day, you're never going to stop us from praying. You're never going to stop us from devoting ourselves to a higher cause. And that's what makes us the people that have survived 4,000 years of craziness, because we have so much more to live for. And we believe in life.
Yeah.
We love life. We want to live it up. And these people have an ideology of death. They think that they die, they're going to get 72 virgins. I think they're going to get 72 people waiting for them, but it ain't going to be virgins. And it's going to be a couple of Jewish people who died at the hands of terrorists will come pay them a visit when they get to their lovely spot in hell.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Chaim Bruk, rabbi here in Bozeman. And I've been on the news all week, obviously, both locally and nationally. Thankfully, I haven't heard of any demonstrations here in Bozeman, at least not yet anyway, from either the college or just, we always have people marching down Main Street for some cause. But thankfully, we haven't seen any actions against you. You were mentioning you have the police and private security and whatever, and it's sad that in a city like Bozeman that we need that.
I couldn't agree more. And
I sincerely hope it's not needed. I hope that people will understand that.
For 14 years, I ran services and I never had security.
Yeah.
We never had formal security. I shouldn't say that. In Bozeman, we're going to have some congregants that are always acting as an informal security.
But I think
after the Poway shooting, and then after the Pittsburgh shooting, like suddenly you don't have the luxury anymore. You don't know where the crazy guy will come from.
Yeah, I was going to say around the major cities, you have so many people there that there's always going to be a segment of society that is not civilized society. I mean, there's just too many people there that they've, whatever their ideology is or whatever their thoughts are not going to be good.
I'm not scared of thoughts. I'm scared of people's action.
Well, that's true, yeah.
And the thing that's going on, I do think that in Montana, we have a greater sense of security just because of the fact that our society is an armed society. And what do they say? An armed society is a kind society.
Yeah.
I think, people have a lot less of the anxieties that exist in bigger cities when they're not armed or they're not protected. But I, as a leader in the community, have to make a decision, and we pay a lot of money. I mean, we pay upwards of $30,000 a year just to make sure our synagogue in Bozeman, Montana is protected.
Yeah.
And that tells you all you need to know. Does the mosque in Bozeman have to be protected? Do any of the churches in Bozeman need to be protected? No, because the chances are slim. With the Jews, you don't know.
Yeah.
Poway's in California, Pittsburgh's in Pennsylvania, Texas. There was the Texas temple in I forgot.
New York as well, Brooklyn.
New York, there's always issues.
Yeah.
And so we just have to do our part, but not live in fear. There's a teaching in Judaism from one of the great masters about 300 years ago. His name was Rav Nachman of Breslov. He said, the entire world is a narrow bridge, and the main thing is not to fear. Meaning, you always walk on a narrow bridge. That's the reality of life. It's fragile. Life can be very, very iffy, challenging. But as long as you don't go with fear, you'll get through it. Fear is a killer of so much joy and so much meaning in life that we just have to. And right now, obviously, Jews are a little scared. I mean, it shakes you up to the core. Yeah. But we don't live our lives that way. And people always ask me from bigger cities, my gosh, does your synagogue have this? Does your synagogue? I'm like, it's Bozeman, man. You should meet my neighbors in the building, the nicest people on earth. You should meet my neighbors near my home. Yeah. I have one neighbor who's a big Trump guy, and I have one neighbor who's the biggest anti-Trump guy, and both on their own. They're good friends, by the way. Yeah. And they came on their own to tell me that, by the way, if they ever come for you, Rabbi, we'll stand right there with you.
I was going to say,
It was unsolicited. I wasn't looking for their protection. But that's Montana.
Yeah.
And so, we saw this Tuesday night when we announced, without any RSVPing, we just announced it's going to be a solidarity for Israel. The room was packed. Yeah. Packed, and I would say 50, 60% weren't even Jewish. They wanted to stand with the Jewish people. Yeah. And that tells me all I need to know. Does it guarantee anything? No. Yeah. But we live in a good place with good people, and I really hope, like you said, I hope it stays that way. And I think leadership of President Cruzado and her team is really, it helps define what kind of campus you're going to have and what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed.
Yeah. Well, I like to think that as I mentioned earlier, we have I don't know, there's probably 100 countries or more that are represented at MSU.
Yeah.
And hopefully those folks are here, to assimilate with our feelings of safety and, understanding, and civil communication with each other, not demonstrating and, violence and whatever else.
So again, I can only speak from my history here. There was actually a student from Saudi Arabia that started. Well, he started at MSU, and then he started a little company of importing dates from Saudi Arabia and then selling them in America. And he wanted to be certified kosher because he knew there's a big code, and I helped him with the kosher certification. Mm-hmm. So I'm not one of these people who thinks that, oh, you're Muslim, I better be scared. I took my family to Morocco. I just came back with my family this summer in August from South Africa. I do believe in seeing a diverse world where we can each see the beauty in other human beings. That doesn't mean I'm an idiot. It doesn't mean I don't realize that there's a segment of mostly Middle Eastern Muslims. It's not all Muslims, because there's big countries like Azerbaijan and even the majority of Turkey and that are fine with Jews. Kazakhstan, these are countries that are Muslim. There's an issue in the Middle East. There's a lot of brainwashing that goes on. It doesn't mean if I meet a Muslim, the first thing I'm going to do is think he's about to stab me. Yeah. And I'm always going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, if the guy told me he's from, Gaza, I may choose a different Uber just to be on the safe side.
Sure. Yeah.
If the guy told me he's from Almaty, Kazakhstan, come on in. Uzbekistan, it's also they have no beef with the Jews. Yeah. And so I think it's about learning to be safe, smart, but also open to the recognition that human beings are human beings, and the super majority of them are extremely kind and gracious to other human beings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, this is a sad thing. And this is why I wanted to have you on. As I mentioned earlier, we usually have you here for happy times and holidays and things like that. And this is a particularly unfortunate situation but I sincerely appreciate you coming in and sharing your thoughts with us, because a lot of folks here that listen to us see this, and they don't always realize there's a Bozeman connection.
And I think there's also an issue. It's not an issue, but
and Livingston and Montana, I don't want to cut anybody out.
Right, but I'm saying Montana, there's libertarianism, right? And sometimes libertarians, they're like, oh, we shouldn't get involved in all issues worldwide. And by the way, I may agree with that. Don't get involved. Yeah. Let Israel do what it has to do and get the hell. Don't bother us. Yeah. We'll do whatever we have to do to protect our citizens. That's the job of a government. If you can't protect your own citizens and you're not giving them the ability to protect themselves, because Israel does not have a Second Amendment, then you better show up and do the job for them. And there was a failure there. Somehow this happened. Going forward, we cannot allow it to happen again. Hopefully, with the minimum of civilian casualties along the way.
Yeah. I know one of the reasons you're here being recorded is Tech on Saturday, although I have heard that a lot of Jewish people got on planes on last Saturday.
No, even today.
And went.
Because when it comes to what we call in Hebrew pikuach nefesh, when life is on the line, there's no issues. You can do anything you have to do when there's a life on the line.
Exactly,
but I'm not a medic, I'm not a soldier, I'm just a rabbi, so my phone was off last Sabbath, it's going to be off this Sabbath, and I can't be on the radio with you, but at least you got me recorded in advance.
There you go. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. It's always great to have you here, and I really appreciate you in this hard time.
Let's get together next time for a joyous occasion.
Amen. Let's do
not Jews being slaughtered. Let's be here for something incredible.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll record you for Hanukkah.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
A couple months coming. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chaim Bruk, Rabbi Chaim Bruk, joining us today. We really appreciate his time and effort with us. So we'll continue with the show right after this. And once again, thanks to Chaim Bruk for joining us. Really appreciate him taking the time to come in. A couple of things I want to cover before we leave. One is Bozeman has voted on short-term rentals, and they've godfathered in some rentals and doing things with others, but they tighten their grip on short-term rentals on a Tuesday vote, 3-1 in favor of a new ordinance which heavily regulates short-term rentals where the owner does not live on site. termed Type 3 by the city. And according to the rules, Bozeman will no longer permit Type 3 rentals, which critics say take up valuable housing that could be used for local workers. So the commissioners opted to allow more than 100 of the Type 3 units that are already permitted to continue operating under a grandfather clause. Commissioner Jennifer Magic and Cindy Andrus, who are both up for election, by the way, against each other on this ballot that just went out yesterday. They supported the amendment, citing a shared concern that an outright ban on the Type 3 rentals wouldn't meaningfully add to the city's housing stock and could erode trust in the government. So Bozeman resident Kent Madden was among those who asked commissioners to proceed with caution, saying that a ban on all Type 3 rentals in the city could have unlimited consequences. And in other news, I think the city has, or someone wants to bring a complaint against the city or sue the city based on the housing situation where what do they call them? The encampments? No, it's urban camping. That's it. It's urban camping. So we always have to sugarcoat the terminology that we use when we're talking about these things. So, but the other thing I wanted to talk about real quickly before we have to leave. Bozeman got a grant from the EPA for $1.6 million. They got a check for a grant from the EPA. It will go toward the purchase of 8,000 new trash carts, 100 bear-resistant carts, and the creation of the Bozeman Sustainable Organic Management Program that's going to roll out next year. The program will allow for year-round composting, and all subscribers will receive 3 buckets: blue for trash, green for recycling, and brown for compost. So there you go. Don't subsidize our housing. Don't help the poor. By all means, let's keep that new Green Deal going. City's also planning on making technological improvements to the current recycling infrastructure. And the check went to Deputy Mayor Terry Cunningham, who said he's thrilled about the impact the money will have. And this program that we are really excited about introducing to the Bozeman residents, educating them about the importance of recycling. And this helps us achieve our climate goals, which are among the most aggressive in the state. So you'll be happy to know that you live in a community where the global warming is, we're attacking it full bore. So, don't worry about it. These goals include reducing CO2 emissions by 26% in the year 2025, having 100% net renewable energy by 2030, and being completely carbon neutral by 2050. So the $1.6 million will help the city get closer to achieving those goals, and the Bozeman Sustainable Organics Management Program is expected to reduce greenhouse gases by approximately 2,000 metric tons, which is, what would that be, like 0.1%, something like that. So I don't know. So I sometimes wonder what these people are thinking. I mean, I appreciate the 1.6 billion, or million to come into our city. Certainly, regardless of how it's used, I guess it'll be used somehow. But anyway, in other news, transgender sex again is raising its ugly head. Attorneys for a group of transgender and intersex Montanans said this week that they have filed a lawsuit challenging the new law that enshrines binary, reproduction-based definitions for male, female, and sex across the state's legal code. This was Senate Bill 458 that passed this year's GOP-controlled legislature, despite vigorous opposition from Democrats and LGBTQ rights groups, and signed by Gianforte and a Republican whose non-binary adult child was among the bill's public opponents. So you got that going for us. So we'll keep track of that, see where that lawsuit goes, if anywhere. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for me. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Shane for being with me, as always, every week. He's great. And, of course, we really appreciate you guys out there so much. We really need you guys to support the show. And don't forget Sacramento State. The Bobcats are at Sacramento State tonight at 8:30. That'll be on our sister station, XL 100, or XL Country, rather, I should say, 100.7 on your FM dial. And don't forget to vote for Tom and Shane in Bozeman Magazine's Reader's Choice. Go to bozemanmagazine.com. and click on the black banner up there where it says Bozeman Choice and vote for Tom and Shane under Media and Info. And until next week, I am out of here.